So I made a program a while ago that essentially increases the followers on your Instagram account, and I thought I'd just share it to everyone and see what they thought. So the general idea of the program is if you happen to follow someone on Instagram, they tend to follow you back. So based on that logic, we kind of work from there. So I have this emulator here, this emulator phone, and I made a previous video of how to attach a Python program to automate tasks on an emulator or an Android phone or whatever. And we're using uh, this called Appium, an Appium server. And if you really want to learn more about it, just check out my channel. There's some videos there on some projects I've used Appium on and how to get started. But I'm assuming that some people are going to want a copy of the code. And again, you can't really get a copy or give a copy away of this code because the way it works is the Appium itself tends to work on the GUI of the phone, so the graphical interface. So if I click on an icon, these icons are defined within this device. So if you get another device, it might not be the same. And if you don't know how to work with Appium, you'll probably just get fed up with the project and leave it. So watch the previous project I made on the Appium on how to get started and how to automate Instagram with that, and then kind of come back to this to kind of build something like this for yourself. So getting started, I'm just going to debug this so you can really just read it code by line so you have an understanding of what's going on. So let's just debug this and we'll start at the first pointer. So this just gets our current time, and because Instagram is kind of it has clever people employed behind it, and the way they've built certain scripts in place so that if someone does try to build an automation program, it can get caught easily. But again, because these are scripts, you can't fool them. So we're going to try and make it look like this person is using the phone during the daytime and at nighttime the phone's not in use. So that's what this kind of setup is for. So we get the time, we work out if the time is larger than 6 a.m. So we're just taking the hour from our time object. So if we say time, um, no, time underscore now, my bad. So that gives us our time object, and it's saved as a date time object, and that splits our date time into different parts. So we've got our hours here. Um, I believe our minutes and our seconds, and then I think these are microseconds or nanoseconds, something like that. So yeah, we're just interested in the hour object. So that's what we use here. We just check whether it's bigger than 6. If not, then we run our code. If it is smaller than 6, then we assume because of the way the time's set up, it's a 24-hour clock. When it goes to 0, it will say 0. Then we will assume that okay, this part is false. We jump onto here, and then we do that. If our time is smaller than 7 a.m., then we add some extra time for it to sleep, so a couple of hours, and then we just sleep. So yeah. So if we go into our main object, so obviously that's true, we go into that. We define our driver. So when we define our driver, we do the following. We have uh, this object we have to pass called desired capabilities, and they're basically special parameters that Appium requires for it to function. So this kind of stuff here in comments is irrelevant. All you really need is the platform name, so we know that our mobile device is an Android device, as so, and our UDID is the unique device name. So let me just open this up in CMD so you have a better understanding. And then if we say ADB devices, you can see the list of devices. This name is given emulator-5558, and that's our UDID. Now, ADB devices or ADB is a package needs to be installed from Android Studios, and again, I cover that in another video where I tell you how to get started, but you should have that installed if you're already working with Appium, so that should be pretty easy to understand. So again, we make that into a dictionary, and again, I'm going to assume you have a grasp of basic Python. So dictionary obviously is a data object, or is actually it's an object with a key name, a key and a value pair, and we're just passing that here into this. Our WebDriver is our imports. So we have imports above here. We're importing from Appium. So if you've worked with Selenium before, this is fairly similar. It's kind of a similar concept. Um, and so there's certain Selenium-based patterns that are present here. So if we go into that, we go into that. If it connects up, then we should break out of this while loop. Um, and as this is similar to Selenium, if any of you have used Selenium before, it's Selenium's very finicky. It breaks a lot, so it's good practice to put a lot of it in try and catch statements. So the way I've kind of worked around this is I assume my driver will always load, and I've put this in a try and catch statement in a while loop. So keep trying until you pass or until you find a successful outcome. Otherwise, keep looping. Obviously, that does cause its own issues because you might be caught in an infinite loop. But if that's the case, try to make unique print statements so you can identify where the issue is coming from when you do debug that. So obviously, we break, we return the driver. So we have a driver object here, and then we want to load up the app. So that's just a custom function. And now I've got a try and catch statement here, which is basically saying click on this Instagram icon. Okay, because we're in a debug mode and we're taking quite a bit of time, the server can run into issues of a. So if we actually work out what the issue is, so let's say E. So I run this again and just kind of put a break statement there so it jumps into that section. Okay, you can see that the app loaded up. Cool. This is the home page of the user I'm currently working as. So let's just go into setup. So we sleep for 3 seconds because of course we want to act like we're an actual human being because we don't want our flag to get counted up or get caught in Instagram scripts to block them. General idea is something between 10 to 15 seconds is ideal between each large action is what distinguishes you from a bot. So you want to put those kind of large breaks between major operations. So clicking something like that, we click the home button and then we want to wait a certain amount of time. You can see here I said plus 10 because I want to add plus 10 seconds to the wait time. Waiting, waiting, waiting. We then move on to the second part where we go into the search tab. So by clicking that, we obviously in the search icon. We then want to click on this element here, the search bar. We come out of that. We want to load these files that we have. So we've got these files that are just getting the list of usernames that we're going to search for, the people that we are following, the accounts we have visited, and some of the accounts that we have unfollowed. And period of time to spend using the app. That's just a general. I'll go into one of these files and how about that? So it's just a simple function that reads in a file and stores it into a list and cuts them off by new line endings. So we're basically getting the line that we read from the file. We're splitting them between the new line ending, is a special character here, and then we just append or take those values and store them into our list. So I mean, it's pretty simple. We'll just go up to that. So this special thing here just generates us a time. It's all done in seconds, and we specify um, the time we should spend using the app. And then if we spend more time than that, we just go into a little break because obviously we want to specify or make it look like we're an actual human being. So again, we then have a list here of usernames. We then check if that username is empty. If it's empty, then obviously we don't do anything else, but obviously we have values appended in that. We then just check the current time or the current time diff to see if the time we started to the current time to see if we've gone over. It's just a simple check to see if we spent more time than we should have on the app. We've got a current username. We then check if that username has been in the account we visited. It has, so then we continue, so we keep doing that. And then I'm just going to jump into a section where we haven't got a username that we haven't visited, so this one. We then go into a search section, so this particular bar on my GUI settings of the phone is specified at this link. So I'm saying driver.find element by ID, and its ID value is this. So these sections here, or these certain boxes or parameters here, are defined as either ID values or XPath values. I found the easiest to work with is ID values, but there may be cases where you might want to work with XPath and so on and so forth. So it depends on your situation. Okay, again, because this stuff is quite finicky, it's crashed, so I'm gonna have to start the program again. Okay, so we're gonna search for a username, and these are just essentially to click on the search bar, clear it, and enter your values. So if we just keep going through it, so you can see we've typed in someone's name. We then check the account to see the details, whether it's worth following this person or not, to see if they are actually likely to follow us. So we've clicked into the account, and because when we typed in the name, the relevant suggestion for the first box was just one, so the first one there. So that was referenced in terms of an index value of 0, so we remember that. And we go into it, we check if the username is equal to that title text here is equal to the username we're searching for, because remember people do have duplicate names here. Now you just want to get the post text, the follower text, so these numbers, and we want to check certain things. So here we pass in a string into a function that checks whether our values have numbering like 1k, 2k, 1m, 10m, like if you got the hundred and millions values. And obviously here we don't, so it should be fine. Then we want to check if our followers are in the range that we want, because obviously if you have someone that has loads of following, they're not really substantial in terms of getting them to follow, because then they won't have that type of reach that someone who has large amounts of followers would have. So again, we just want to randomize the decision to see if we do actually want to follow this person or not. Because if you follow everyone in a row, it can create issues and make it look very obvious in terms of Instagram scripts to scrape bots off. You'll pop up quite easily. So obviously we want to random it, and our output is true and index 0, so that means we are going to follow this person. So true, index value. So if our index value, yeah, so then we then go back onto an element. That is to go back by 1. Hopefully it won't crash. Yeah, we crashed. But we want to see their followers. So we're going to click on their followers. And then we're just going to go through their followers one by one and taking their names. And this method allows us to get the size and the dimension of one follower box here. And then that way we can scroll down. So that's where those functions come in. So yeah, you can see here we're getting the values. We then add the name to a list. So these are the obvious ones that are present. And then we scroll down 20 times. So you can see a scroll. And then we get all the values here of all the usernames. And that's just to check if we do have the usernames already saved in our list, we don't want to add more. So that's why we keep doing that. And then if I put a break statement there, you can see we're adding the new ones. We then scroll a bit more, add new ones, scroll more, and then let me just jump out of this. Okay, so we've got the users. We then want to save them to a list and save them to file. So if we, that's a simple save function. and then we want to save, or at least add them to the general list we have of usernames that we've already been. Um, so we want to save the individual name of this to the accounts we visited. We then want to wait a certain amount of time, and then we want to go back to the home, the main home page. Go back again, and then we put certain statements across to say that if we have waited a certain amount of time, then we wait for a pause, go to the home page or whatever, or we just continue onwards. And that's essentially how the program works. It just goes over the file usernames we have. We check each account, see if if all the parameters line up. We then follow the person, unless Instagram has banned our account temporarily, and then we keep going forward. So here you can see we're going to search for another person's name, the account we just visited. Go forward. We'll see if we follow them or not. Keep going. Okay, so we're not following them. We're going to get their followers. And yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, the program doesn't really do anything else. Most of the stuff I've shown you. Yeah, so then these people's names will be stored in a file as well. We'll keep going through it slowly, step by step. And yeah, so that's the code. I hope that helps in what you're doing and in your Appium development. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.